Everyone, this is actually a video on how to use retirements block, right? I think there are a lot of information there, and some people sometimes ask where the uh, PowerPoint slides I get from the pictures that I put in my PowerPoint slides, right? Where they actually come from, and they actually come from retirements block, and I'm going to share how to get it. All right, I'm not going to pretend that I know how to use every part of his block well, right? But I think generally the most useful part of his block lies here in S3 information, right? And if you go to dashboard, right, you get something like that, right? So you see the first half here is 19 counters, right? So you can choose the counter you're interested in here, right? And if it's not here, then it should be below lah, right? You can see until this under FLCT, right? Otherwise it's below, so the below starts with IREIT, right? So I'm going to try to cover what one of my readers or listeners actually asked for, right? He actually asked me to look at Daiwa Logistics House, all right, and unfortunately I wasn't able to do so due to time constraints, right, due to work and so on, right? So I'm just going to do a quick run through here, right, to see if we can help understand Daiwa Logistics House a bit better lah, right? This is by no means a comprehensive look at the REIT, right, but I think it's a very good first picture overview, right? So I think the results here is as of 31st December 2024, which I think is the latest numbers already, right? Normally he updates his numbers quite frequently, so this is actually the most recent information, right? So they listed in 2021, so they don't have a very long history, about maybe 4 years, yeah, maybe less than 4 years, right? So semi-annual distribution, right? Let's look at their key matrix, right? Normally what I'll look at is, yeah, I'll look at these things, right? So these things are actually quite useful because firstly they tell you core numbers about the REITs. For example, price to NAV, generally 0.83 is considered cheap, right? And what this means is that if Daiwa Logistics House liquidates everything, they're basically worth $1, right? You are paying 83 cents for it, right? So you're paying a cheaper price than what they're currently worth lah, so to speak, right? Dividend is quite high, 8.4%, right? Occupancy is pretty good, right? 97.6%, right? WALE 6.6 years I think is quite high, right? And if you're not sure whether this number is big or not, right, you can actually look at this meter over here, right? Basically what this means is that if this number is higher than average, right, you'll be in the green side, right? Oh, sorry, let me rephrase. If this number is a good thing, it's a better than average number, right? Could be higher or could be lower, then it's on this side, right? So anytime you see this meter turn green, right, pointing to the green side, that means this number is good relative to their peers, right? It's as compared to the rest of the REITs, right? So we try and look at we try to see anything red or not. Here, right? So you see this one, top 10 tenants by MPI is 66.2%, right? So that means to say their top 10 tenants is basically 66% of their net property income, which means concentration risk, right? So this number high is not a good thing, right? So you can see it's actually pointing towards the red color side, right? So this is not a good number. How do you know? You see the pointer is pointing at the red color side, right? So generally, if I want to see whether anything is red, generally this average, right? So average, this slightly on the good side, a bit better, right? Gearing ratio 38.5%, right? Still decent. Interest coverage ratio is very good. You can see, wow, 8.1 times. And you know what's good about this? Generally, REITs only report interest coverage ratio, which does not include gearing, but retirement tends to be more conservative. That's why he uses adjusted interest coverage ratio, which also covers their perpetual securities. So I'm very impressed that this number is 8.1. If you look at other REITs, right, for example, if I compare with a big REIT like CICT, right, you can see interest coverage ratio only 3.1. So these are it looks like a very, I would say, conservatively managed REIT, right? Just looking at this number, right? So anyway, moving on, all right, I will look at all the numbers, right? You can see the related party shareholder, how much the sponsor owns, how much the manager owns, so on and so forth, right? Computer occupancy is very high at 97%, all right, 18 units, okay. You can see the other thing I'll look out for is gearing ratio. Okay, you see it's 38.5%, but again, we want to know how the perpetual securities affect this. So it's actually 42.6%. So gearing is on the high side, right? So that means normally above 40% will consider high. So this is a slight concern, but because of the interest coverage ratio in front at 8.1 times, right, I think there's not much of a worry, All right, this is just looking at the numbers and not looking at the details lah. All right, so it's a very macro overview. Please don't take this as financial advice. Right? Yeah, so this is the part I'll look at and think this REIT looks safe based on this number. All right, so the rest I won't bother too much. Right, generally it's a Japan focused REIT, a bit in Vietnam. Right, DPU component, yeah, so that means how much come from operations. Basically, yeah, the percentage from operations, I think, is this what this blue trend line is trying to show. So the percentage of DPU from operations is going down, right? Generally not a good thing, but I think the percentage is still okay. Yeah, it's like 96.4%, so very high from operations lah. Not really a big concern. I think this is absolute number, right? So basically the DPU is dropping lah. Not such a good thing. Maybe that's why the numbers look so cheap, right? So trend from DPU generally looks like the recent few quarters not so good lah, right? These few quarters, right? Second, third, and fourth quarters doesn't look like as good as the previous quarters, right? So NAV is dropping. Yeah, this may be why the REIT looks cheap, right? Outstanding shares look okay, doesn't look like grossly inflated, right? Maybe this there has to be some number of shares increase due to the management fees paid unit. So I think that's the reason why the shares are increasing slowly, right? Occupancy generally very high, right? Interest coverage ratio has always been very strong. So it looks like a conservatively managed REIT, right? So those are the basic numbers I'll look at. If we look at historical charts, right? So some of you ask me where these charts come from, so it comes from here, right? So 5-year wise, I think they don't have 5-year data. So this is probably as far back as 2022 only, right? So less than 5 years now. But basically their average yield is 8.14. That means it's not really cheap. If I look at just look at their yield versus their historical yield. They've always been priced at 8+%, right? Again, 5-year price over NAV, again, yeah, it's around 0.85, right? Yeah, I think just now it was 0.86 price over NAV. So actually the REIT does not look cheap from a historical perspective, right? So maybe you other than all this information that some of you have asked me where I got from, you want to compare, right? So something good about his blog is that you can also compare, right? So let's look at how to compare Daiwa, yeah. So we try and compare with other logistics REIT lah, like Mapletree, right? Maybe Ames. Can't really think of any other logistic REITs, right? So we'll just look at these three lah. If you want, you can go and think about more, but I'll just keep it simple, otherwise this video will get too long. Right, you can see the oldest one with most history is Mapletree Logistics. Ames is quite a popular logistics REIT as well, right? Yeah, so we are looking at dividends, clearly, yeah, Mapletree Logistics is the lowest, right? Probably because it's the biggest, right? You can see the market cap so big, $6.58 billion, right? Daiwa is so small. It's about $400 million only. Yeah, that's maybe why is priced this way, right? Sometimes the smaller REITs, there's always a worry that they are more vulnerable, right? Ames is about $1 billion lah. So Ames is the middle lah, and you can see their dividend also sort of reflects that lah. Looks like this is the safest REIT, right? Followed by Ames, then Daiwa Logistics House, right? Okay, REIT sponsor. Okay, Mapletree Logistics looks like the one that owns the most of. Mapletree looks like the one that owns the most of this REIT, right? Occupancy, yeah, actually has the best occupancy, right? So income in SGD over major currency. So I think somehow their income, right, either they hedge to SGD or what, because it looks like their income is actually in SGD, right? I hope this is correct, right? But if that is the case, then Daiwa Logistics House will be quite interesting. That means they don't have FX risk, maybe because they hedge their income, right? So I have to look at it lah. I'm not very sure. I need to look at their PowerPoint slides, assuming I have the time, right? So yeah, what other things will I look at? Yeah, adjusted interest coverage ratio again. This is amazingly strong, right? 8.02, 8.08, right? You look at Mapletree Logistics 2.9, actually it's below 3. Ames APAC 2.4. Okay, because Ames APAC I think quite a lot of perpetual securities, if I remember correctly. Cost of debt, Ames APAC is the highest, right? Surprisingly, this REIT is doing well, even though it's such high cost of debt. This one is because of their Japanese loans. It's very cheap. Alright, so fixed rate proportion, yeah, you see very conservative. Yeah, you can see that the amount of hybrids they have over their debts plus hybrids is 9.6, 9.4. AIMS got a lot, 34.7%, right? So AIMS is, yeah, a bit more leverage lah, right? So this one is including hybrids. Normally I look at this. You see the gearing ratio can be deceptive. AIMS look like very low, but if you include their perps, it's actually very high, 51.6%. So I'll look at this value, right? And one thing good about retirement account is that he actually calculates this for you. Okay, the rest, yeah, I think the rest not too much to mention, right? Property yield looks like AIMS is the best, right? So they're not getting very good yield on property, right? If you compare across their peers in the logistics space, right? So these are the things that you can look at lah, right? So that's how to use the tool I find most useful part of Retirement's blog. All right, with that I will include the link of Retirement's blog in the comment section below. Thank you for listening.